and my name is Sheila. And today we're gonna read the Magic Tree as Smaller Missions 3. And the name of the Magic Tree as Smaller Missions 3 is Summer of the Sea Serpent. And today we're gonna start the reading at chapter 1 and the other reading at chapter 3, okay? And now, are you ready for this one book with a lot of stories? And now, here we go. And first you can read The Magic Tree of Smaller Missions 3, Summer of the Sea Serpent. Chapter 1. Jack Summer's Solstice. Jack was sitting on the porch reading the newspaper. It was a warm summer day, but the porch was shady and cool. Annie poked her head out of the screen door. "Hey, Mom, say she will drive us to the lake this afternoon," she says. And Jack didn't raise his eyes from the weather page. "Did you know today's the summer solstice?" He said. "What is that?" said Annie. "The official first day of summer," said Jack. "There's more daylight today than on many other days of this year." "Cool," said Annie. "Starting tomorrow, the day will get shorter and shorter," said Jack. A loud screech came from overhead, and Jack looked up. "Look," said Annie. "A seagull." Jack looked up. A large white gull was circling a bright noon sky. "What's he doing here?" said Jack. "The ocean was 2 hours away." The gull stopped down and screeched again. "Maybe he's a manager from a Morgan or Merlin," said Annie. "Maybe one of them sent him to tell us the treehouse is finally back." Jack's heart began to pound. He put down the newspaper. "You think so?" he said. And Jack and Annie hadn't seen a magic treehouse since their Merlin mission to Haunted Castle last Halloween. And Jack had begun to worry that the treehouses might never come back. "Look, he's flying through the woods," he said. And Jack jumped up. "Okay," he said, "let's go. He'll be back soon, Mom," Annie called. And then she and Jack dashed across their yard, and then they ran down their street into the Frog Creek woods. The shady woods are dilapidated with a sunlight. The air smelled fresh and clean. Jack and Annie have hurried past the leafy trees. All they have come to the tallest oak, and high in the oak branches, the magic treehouse was waiting for them. "Wow," Jack and Annie said together. The treehouse looked actually the same when they've last seen it, and Annie grabbed the rope ladder and stirred it up. And Jack followed. When they climbed aside to the treehouse, no one was there. "Look, our royal invitation was still here," said Annie. He picked up the car that he had taken them to the Camelot on Christmas Eve. "And then our leaf come from Mullins is still here," said Jack. He picked up the yellow autumn leaf that had sent them on their Halloween mission. "This is new," said Annie. She picked up a pail of blue seashell. The shell had shaped like a small fan. There was a writing on it. "Hey, look like Mullen's handwriting," said Annie. "We must be going on another mission for Merlin." She'll read aloud with a message from the magician. "To Jack and Annie of Frog Creek, on this summer solstice, a journey to a land lost its mist, to a time even before Camelot. Follow my Ramon to complete your mission. M." M might be Morgan or Mullen. So, who is it now? I think it's Merlin. And Annie looked up. What's the rhyme? She says, let me see, said Jack took out a shell for her and turned it over. The one other side was a poem, and Jack read the poem aloud. Before night falls on the long summer day, a shining sword must find its way into your hands and out of the gloom, or Camelot's king and shall meet the doom, and begin our quest for the sword of light. Call for the help of the water knight, and then pass through the cave of the Spider Queen. Spider Queen, Annie said in truth, I think Jack and Annie are beating a Spider Queen. And she frowned. The spiders are about the one thing we're afraid of. And don't think about it now, said Jack. Let's keep going. He read on. Passed through the cave of the Spider Queen and swim to the Salic close on the green and the answer of clove, a small stormy close, dive neat to the clock of the old gray ghost. And Jack stopped reading. Old gray ghost? He said. Don't think about it now, said Annie. Keep going. Jack, read more. Answer a question with love, not fear. A reminder sword your home is near. Both Jack and Annie were silent for a moment. That's a lot up before nightfall, Jack finally says. Yeah, said Annie. And I'm a little worried about the spider part. And the ghost part, said Jack. Hey, said Annie, if you're going to our other Merlin mission, I'll bet Teddy will come with us. He can help us to get us scary parts. Right, said Jack. Jack just worried. Teddy's name made him feel braver. So, said Annie, onward was Teddy's favorite word. Onward, said Teddy. He pointed to the handwriting on the pale blue shell. I wish you could go to the time before Camelot. The wind started to blow. The tree started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and everything was still, absolutely still. Now, Chapter 2, The Water Knight. And a salty breeze blew into the treehouse. A seagull screeched overhead. Jack and Annie looked at the treehouse window. They were in the high branches of the Glarrod's old tree. The tree was on the sea cliff of the beneath Squirrelcliff Mountains. The mountains over looked a rocky coast. There was no sign of the human life anywhere. It looked like a wily and lonely here, said Annie. Really lonely, said Jack. I wonder where Merlin and Teddy are. I don't know, said Annie. They were in the trunk of our tree last time. Let's look for them in this one. She climbed down to the rope ladder. Jack scrambled in the seashell, and then Pocket followed her. Merlin, Annie says. Teddy and Jack and Annie circled and glared into the tree trunk, but there's no sign of an entrance into the magical chamber of Merlin Magician. The circle of the tree again. Jack trapped the bark of several places. I have the feeling no one lives inside this tree, said Annie. I think you're right, said Jack. Maybe they're down by the water, said Annie. Annie and Jack walked a few feet off the edge of the sea cliff. Look down at the rugged coast. There is a tree of clubs separated from each of their rocky cliffs. The cliffs are filled with the shadowy cracks of dark mouths of capes. In First Cove, sunlit water followed from the open sea toward the small space between the cliffs and wash it into a papery store. But second cloth was smaller, but looked like much of the first. And the third was covered with a difference. The farthest away, it was soured by the ring of the bright green hills. A thin white mist hung over to its milky green waters, and I don't see any sign of the Merlin or Teddy, said Jack. I guess we will have to get started without them. Reading began on Merlin's mind again, said Jack. And Jack looked a shelf from the pocket and read around. Before night falls in the long summer day, a shining sword must have found its way into your hands out of the gloom, or Camel's king shall meet his doom. And Jack looked up at the sky. The sun was almost clearly overhead. It must be around noon now, he said. We don't have much time, said Annie. What do we do first? And Jack looked back to the reminder and read aloud. To begin your quest from the source of night, call from the help or water night. Oh, easy, said Annie. It is, said Jack. Sure, said Annie. The water night is probably down by the water. She started down the steep, rocky hill that led into the narrowest cove, and Jack stuffed it into a shell back into his pocket. But who was the water knight? He called and followed Annie. It wasn't matter, she yelled back, and we was just have to go down to a water to call for his help. And they climbed over large boulders toward the cove, and the waters were slippery, but Jack's sneakers keep falling from the side, and the damp breeze blew from the sea and made the skin of the clothes full clammy, and they got to the shore. Jack wiped the mist of the glasses looked around. A wide ditch covered with silvery pebbles, shells, and the rows of sea foam, eggs, sandpapers, and the gulls picked up the tangled ribbons of the soggy seed. A tide must be out, said Jack. He tilted a cups above the cloth. I don't know how a knight can get down there. A horse can never make it up the old things of the rocks. Let's just do what the reminder tells us, said Annie, and see what happens. Annie stretched out her arms. She closed her and shouted, Oh, water knight, whoever you are, come here and help Jack and Annie. Oh, brother, Jack muttered to himself, and suddenly they heard the wild skirls of the seagulls. Jack, look, said Annie. She pointed to the pope of the middle of the cloth. A seabird was scrambling down of the flapping about the giant roll of spray foam, and the wire was spinning just above the surface of the water, handed to the beach. Wow, said Annie. She looked from the running across the sand. Come back, shouted Jack. No, come look, said Annie. Jack hurried to the edge of the skirt, and there was a blur spinning spray and foam. They saw a silver helmet with a knight appear above this water. He saw a silver beast armor, then a strange creature burst toward the surface carrying the knight on his back. The creature was a horse that just have hands and neck and front of the legs, but just instead of the back legs, and it just have a long silver fish tail with a water knight of the head glooped and half swing toward the cove, and seagulls circled wildly overhead following the pair toward the shore. And the knight grew close to the edge of the water and looked straight at Jack and Annie. He raised his glove and hand beckoned on them. Okay, we're coming, said Annie. She started pulling off her sneakers. Wait, let's think about this, said Jack. We don't have time, said Annie. He wants to help us. He, like a stag that came from a used camlet. No, he isn't, said Jack. He's much weirder. But Jack and Annie tossed their sneakers into the rocks of a splash, straight into the shadowy water. The knight held up out her hand to help her, and on a strange horse's creature, there was ascending a fountain of the spray. Come on, Jack, Annie yelled. We can't waste the time. I think Jack and Annie have found some lovely water knights. So now the knights can help Jack and Annie. So it might be a very good time for Jack and Annie too. Annie's right, Jack thought. He had to find the source of the light before the nightfall. He pulled out the sneakers and tossed them into of the rocks near Annie's. And then he stepped into the cold water and waded out of the night. And Annie's helped pulling Jack into the horse's creature. And all the sacred tail was clung into Jack and Annie while one tightly into the water night tunic. The silverfish's tail would have slammed up into the water, and a shower of spray turned into Jack and closed his eyes. Onward, he said faintly. The water knight turned away from the shore. With more slams of the tail, the horse's creature began galloping, thus swimming across the crowd. The seagulls circled wildly as they swooped after them, bumping up and down. Jack locked his dampispurly to Annie, and he kept his eyes squished to try hard not to fall off. As they speed across the water, Night guided onto the steadily over each of the ripple and wave. The bumpy ride soon turned it into a smooth one. This is great, cried Annie. Jack opened his eyes with the wind and the spray wiping his face and hair. He began to feel more exciting than scary. I bet it's taking us short of the light, said Annie. We'll be done of our mission in no time. And that will be too easy, thought Jack. But as they speed over to the waves, he grew hopeful. Maybe she's right. Maybe it will be easy, he thought. It's not all of our missions to have a hard, but what about the rest of the stuff in the mind? What about? And before Jack could finish, he thought, the strange horse's creature stopped into the rear lock, and Jack and Annie trembled off to the fishtail and splashed into the cold water. They sat for a moment and bubbled back up to the surface, frantically training water. They looked up at the water knight and his horses. The knight was lifted up with an arm into the air. He pointed to a pile of the burners near the base of the nearby cliff, then sprayed the fingers of his gloved hand the gesture of a farewell. And by dang, shouted Annie. The horse's creature slapped on his fishtail and looked of his fountain spray with foam. And with a lot of girls curling above them, the mysterious pair whirled across the page of the between the cliffs that lied into the sea. In a moment, they vanished and opened to the water beyond. Oh, now they're going to do a lot of missions. And there is a water missions, but there's a lot of scary things for Jack and Annie. But where's Merlin with a teddy? They need to find them, so it might be a bit of the scaries. Now chapter 3, Cave of the Spider King. And now tomorrow we started at chapter 3 and we end up reading at chapter 6, okay? And I will tomorrow, next day, I will read this book, the end. Or if I can't read all of them, I will tell you about the story of the reading part and a last story I can't read. Let's read together, okay? Now, did you have fun? You lost English country. We come back with some of these books, but not this story because it might be new chapter to read, okay? Now, bye-bye, everybody, and have a nice day. Bye!